Was this the night Bruno Mars secretly said goodbye? Imagine this. 82,000 souls standing frozen inside MetLife Stadium, New Jersey, on the night of August 21, 2026, the air so heavy with anticipation you could feel it on your skin, and then a tiny man in a blazing red suit like fire walks to the center of the stage, and in 1 second, just 1 second, he makes the biggest stadium in America feel like our own living room. Many came just to hear the songs. But that night, they went home carrying something much deeper, a sweet ache, a question that remains unanswered until now. Why did Bruno Mars' gaze that night look like someone holding a huge secret that would change everything? Welcome back to this channel, where we don't just talk about music, we dissect the soul behind every single note. If you are here for the first time, you are in the right place because we are a family that loves Bruno Mars in the most sincere way. Tonight, I will not just tell you about the set list or how many lights were turned on. In this video, I will take you deep into the heart of that historic opening night. I will reveal the secret behind the blazing red costume he wore, which turned out to be not just a costume, but a love message to someone from his past. I will tell you about the moment when Bruno stopped singing in the middle of his happiest song and cried, and why 80,000 people cried with him. And most importantly, at the end of this video, I will show you evidence captured by a fan camera that hints that the August 21st concert is the beginning of Bruno Mars' final era before he makes the biggest decision of his life. So please, stay here until the end, because what you are about to hear is not gossip. This is the story of a little boy from Hawaii who that night finally became an eternal legend. That night East Rutherford was not like usual. Since 3 in the afternoon, a sea of humanity had already flowed from the train stations, from the parking lots, from every corner of the city. What made this view so heart-stirring was who they were. Cameras recorded the long lines. There was a 60-year-old mother who came with her daughter and granddaughter, 3 generations wearing the same Bruno Mars t-shirt. There was a married couple celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary, and they said that the song Just the Way You Are was the first song that made them dance in their tiny kitchen long ago. This is the magic of Bruno Mars that no other singer has. He doesn't just gather fans, he gathers families, he gathers memories. The sky above MetLife slowly darkened, and the summer wind blew carrying the aroma of popcorn and perfume mixed into one. Inside the stadium, 82,500 seats were completely filled, not a single one was empty, and the giant screens began to light up showing a countdown. When the numbers showed 10 minutes, the entire stadium began to sing together without music. They sang Locked Out of Heaven with a trembling voice. And that's when you could feel that this was not just a concert, this was a grand reunion of souls who were wounded and healed by the same music. Then the lights went out completely. The silence that happened for 5 seconds was the loudest silence that ever existed. You could hear your own heartbeat. And suddenly, a beam of electric blue light split the darkness, followed by a pinkish-red ray, and the thump of drums from the Hooligans, the band that has been with Bruno for more than a decade, who are more than just a band, they are his brothers. The sound of guitars began to roar, and from under the stage, a hydraulic lift rose slowly. And there he stood. Bruno Mars. Peter Gene Hernandez. The little boy who used to sing Elvis in Waikiki in oversized pants. That night, he did not look like a world superstar. He looked like a prince who had just won a war. He wore a blazing red jumpsuit from head to toe, decorated with gold embroidery that glittered like fire, with a large gold belt and a red bandana tied on his head. That outfit, as you saw in the photo that went viral that night, was a direct tribute to Elvis Presley and James Brown, his 2 heroes, but also a statement. In the world of fashion, red is the color of courage, the color of burning love, and the color of danger. And that night, Bruno wore all 3 at once. He didn't sing right away. He just stood, closed his eyes, held the microphone, letting the screams of 80,000 people hit his body like waves. A fan in the front row who recorded that video wrote on TikTok, "I saw his lips tremble, he whispered thank you. And I swear I saw tears in his eyes before the first song started." That was the moment that made many adult women in that stadium immediately touched. Because we all know how it feels. The feeling when you have fought for so long and finally you stand in the place you dreamed of. And you don't know what to say except to be grateful. And then, the first beat of 24K magic exploded. MetLife Stadium, which is usually the home of the New York Giants and Jets football teams, which is usually full of harsh screams and competition, that night turned into a giant dance floor. There were no more age differences, no more language differences, because that night everyone was part of the same party. A party led by a man who is 165 centimeters tall, who made everyone feel as tall as a giant. The transition from 24K magic to finesse, and then to treasure was as smooth as silk. This is the cleverness of Bruno Mars, as an entertainer, who was educated since the age of 4. He doesn't let the energy drop for a single second. He knows exactly when to make you jump, and when to make you breathe. The education behind this is a science called showmanship, an art that is almost extinct in the era of singers, who just stand still in front of a microphone. Bruno learned from the Motown legends that a concert must be like a roller coaster. You have to be taken up slowly, then dropped beautifully, then made to fly again. And that night, he was the best pilot that ever existed. But behind all the party and lights, there was something different felt by the senior fans, who have followed him since the doo-wops and hooligans era. His movements that night were more explosive, his vocals were more husky and full of power, as if he was pouring all his remaining energy into every note. A music journalist from Rolling Stone, who was there that night, wrote, "Bruno sang as if this was his last night on Earth." And that sentence, without realizing it, became a haunting prophecy. Entering the third song, when he performed Billionaire with a new, funkier arrangement, he stopped in the middle of the lyrics and stared towards the upper tribune, to the place farthest from the stage. He smiled and said, "Tonight, no matter where you sit, in the front or in the back, up or down, you are the most important guest at my party." That simple sentence, a sentence that might sound ordinary to others, made thousands of women in the upper tribune cry. Because how many of us, especially us as adult women, often feel invisible, feel like we are sitting in the back row of life, and that night someone from the biggest stage in the world said that we are important. That is the power of Bruno Mars. He doesn't just sing for your ears, he sings for your loneliest heart. And the party had just begun. Because after this, he would do something he had never done in any concert before. Something that would make that magnificent MetLife Stadium truly feel like a birthday party in the backyard, where confetti falls not from a machine, but like a magical snow falling from heaven, as you saw in that second video you sent. A sea of white confetti covering 80,000 people, making everyone look like angels dancing under the stars. If the first part was about explosive energy, then the second part of that night was about the miracle of how Bruno Mars could make the stadium with the largest capacity feel so intimate. This is a lesson in stage psychology that is not taught in any music school. After a series of upbeat songs that made sweat pour, the lights suddenly dimmed to warm, to a soft golden yellow. The band stopped. Only a single piano chime remained played by Bruno himself. And this is the moment awaited by every woman present there. He sat on the edge of the stage, his legs dangling, so close to the fans in the front row that they could see the sweat dripping on his temples. He took off that blazing red jacket, and underneath he was only wearing a red shirt wet with sweat, showing how hard he had worked for us. He began to play the intro to When I Was Your Man. Instantly, the entire stadium that was previously noisy like a night market turned into a silent church. You could hear sobs. Because this song is no longer just a pop song, this song has become an anthem for every heart that has ever regretted. And the way Bruno performed it that night was different. His voice cracked in some parts, not technically perfect, but that is what made it emotionally perfect. He didn't sing like the recording, he sang like a man who really lived inside those lyrics. In the middle of the song, he stopped again. He looked at an old woman in the front row holding a poster that read, "You healed my husband who suffers from Alzheimer's with your song." Bruno got off the stage, something that is strictly forbidden by his security team in a stadium this big, and he walked over to that woman. He hugged her. And his microphone was still on, so the whole stadium could hear him whisper, "God bless your husband." That moment was recorded by hundreds of cell phone cameras, and went viral within minutes, with the title "Bruno Mars Hugs Elderly Fan." There was no choreography for that. There was no script for that. It was purely the heart of a human being who still remembers where he came from. After that, he continued with Versace on the floor, and then a surprise that made everyone shocked. He performed the song "Die with a Smile," his newest collaboration song, for the first time live with a full orchestra arrangement in this stadium. And on the giant screen behind him, it was not the music video that was played, but a compilation of fan videos from all over the world who sent videos of them singing with someone they love. There was a father and his daughter. There were two grandmothers dancing in the living room. There was a couple getting married. Once again, Bruno did not make himself the center of attention, he made us, his fans, the main stars of his own party. And this is the peak of that intimate part. When the song reached its climax, giant confetti machines hidden on the roof of the stadium exploded simultaneously. But this was not ordinary confetti. As clearly seen in the second photo that became a silent witness to that night, silver-white confetti fell so heavily like snowfall in August. The entire stadium was covered in a thin fog and light, and 80,000 people raised their cell phones, creating a sea of stars under that artificial snowfall. A mother wrote on Facebook the next day, "My 7-year-old child whispered to me, in the middle of that confetti rain, 'Mama, are we inside a dream?' And I answered, 'No, sweetheart, the dream is inside us.'" Educationally, what Bruno did that night is a technique called emotional anchoring. He created a sensory memory so strong, a combination of the visual of confetti snow, the soft smell of confetti gunpowder, the sound of thousands of people singing softly, and the touch of confetti falling on the skin, so that every time you see snow or confetti in the future, you will immediately remember that night, and feel again the love you felt. That's why his concert never really ends. It lives inside our bodies. That night at MetLife, Bruno Mars managed to do something impossible. He made 80,000 people who did not know each other feel like they were a family gathered at the most beautiful wedding party, where everyone is invited, everyone is loved, and everyone is allowed to dance until they forget time. And when the last confetti fell, he stood in the middle of the stage, soaked with sweat and confetti stuck in his hair. He smiled with the most sincere smile the world has ever seen, and said, "New Jersey, you make me feel like I'm home." And there, in the middle of a sea of white confetti that was still falling like tears of happiness, in the middle of 80,000 people who were still hugging, Bruno Mars stared blankly at the New Jersey night sky and said softly, almost inaudibly, "I don't know how long I can keep doing this." That sentence hung in the air, freezing that giant party in an instant. Was it just exhaustion? Or was it a premonition, an honest confession from an artist who has given everything for 20 years? What big sacrifice is he actually carrying behind that blazing red suit? The answer is much more touching than you can imagine, and it will change the way you see Bruno Mars forever. In part 2, I will reveal the secret behind his long hiatus, the hidden message for the hooligans, and the final moment when he made the entire stadium kneel in the most beautiful silence. So don't miss it. If tonight, this story in part 1 alone has already made your heart tremble, imagine what will happen next. Now I want to hear from you, this channel's big family. From all the moments I told about on the opening night of August 21st, which moment gave you the most goosebumps? Was it when he hugged that elderly fan, or when the confetti rain fell like snow? Write your honest feelings in the comments column below. I will read every single one of your comments one by one, because here, your voice is the most beautiful music. Hit the like button if you felt the warmth of that giant party from here. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you will be the first to know when part 2, which is full of tears, airs tomorrow. See you. Keep loving sincerely like Bruno loves us.